Jiangshu and I were reborn simultaneously. In my previous life, I was consort Rong, favored above all others in the imperial harem. After death, I was buried alongside him in the imperial mausoleum. Yet this time, after waiting 3 years for the imperial selection list, it was my legitimate sister's name that appeared. I suddenly realized, in this lifetime, he had chosen to avoid me. Later, I followed my father's arrangements and entered into a betrothal. After the palace banquet, General Xia affectionately lifted me into the carriage beside him. Behind us, the emperor, usually cool and haughty, clenched his fists silently. In my previous life, from the moment I entered the palace, Jiangshu showered me with favor. He personally made kites for me to play with and tended to me day and night when I fell ill. Our relationship mirrored that of any ordinary married couple. As I lay dying, I held his hand and smiled brightly, "Your Majesty, in our next life, I shall meet you before the empress does." His eyes welled with tears as he held me close and whispered his promise. "Ah Hung, in our next life, I will marry you." After death, we were buried together in the imperial mausoleum. He showered me with a love unlike any other. My only regret, I suppose, was never bearing his children. When I opened my eyes again, I had returned to the year I turned 16. In this lifetime, Jiangshu was still the crown prince, not yet ascended to the throne. I had father summon a wandering physician from Jiangnan early on to examine my pulse. He shook his head helplessly. "You've been as strong as an ox since childhood, how could you have hidden ailments?" I frowned and retorted, "I do. I demand the wandering physician from Jiangnan examine me." During my years in the harem, the imperial physicians said my youthful injury had damaged my vital energy, making conception difficult. I was both furious and anxious, unable to bear an heir for Jiangshu. He has several imperial sons and daughters, yet he and I have none. Though Jiangshu constantly comforts me, the regret remains. This lifetime, only bearing a child with him would bring true fulfillment. When the wandering physician from Jiangnan arrived, my sister Rongjin glanced at me with concern. "Are you feeling unwell?" I awkwardly chose to remain silent. She seemed accustomed to my reticence. After examining my pulse, the traveling physician stared at me thoughtfully. "This young lady," he said, "possesses a robust pulse, far stronger than the average person's." My sister chuckled softly. I understood, the physician was praising my robust constitution, free of hidden ailments. But why had the imperial physician in my past life declared my womb damaged, making conception difficult? I didn't trust the wandering physician's words. I begged father to find me a divine healer to examine me, even arranging for the matrons by my side to seek out physicians from other regions to take my pulse. Father was helpless at my behavior. "Didn't the physician say your body has no hidden ailments? Why won't you believe it?" I was holding the tonic recipe for strengthening the body that the matron had just found. "Father, this matter is very important to me." As I spoke, my voice began to tremble with tears. Father paused, sighed deeply, and took the remedy from my hand. "You must not take this. I will go to the Imperial Medical Academy and seek a remedy for you." Instantly, my heart filled with joy. Father truly cares for me most. My father gazed at me with affection. "Then I'll go right now." No sooner had father left than I slipped into my sister's courtyard. She lay resting on her daybed. Seeing me approach, a flicker of surprise crossed her face. "Sister, why have you come?" I recalled my past life, how I'd inexplicably disliked this sister. Yet when trouble struck in the palace, she was the first to help me find a solution. Later, when she married, her husband proved a cruel man. By the time she died, she was skin and bones. I just wanted to tell you, there's no rush to marry. But now, at 15, having just come of age, matchmakers are already lining up to propose. My sister covered her mouth with a handkerchief and laughed. Fine. Before I enter the palace, I must find her a good husband, someone who will bring her a lifetime of peace and happiness. You will accompany me to the flower-pinning banquet in a few days. Many talented young men will attend, and Jiangshu will certainly be among them. This time, I must win his favor early on. Entering the Eastern Palace first would be acceptable. Thinking this, I found myself smiling slightly. In the evening, Father obtained a medicinal formula for strengthening my constitution and advised, "This medicine is bitter. If you don't want to drink it, you don't have to." I shook my head. "I'll keep drinking it." The young maid boiled the medicine and handed it to me. Under my father's watchful gaze, I downed it in one gulp. The bitter taste churned in my mouth. I forced back a single tear and swallowed it. "Father, I've finished it." But he turned his face away, unable to look at me. I've always hated bitterness. So Father has always forced me to exercise with him, avoiding medicine whenever possible. His voice caught slightly, "Then I'll leave first." Watching Father's retreating figure, I instructed the maid to ensure I drank it 3 times a day. On the day of the flower-pinning banquet, I deliberately wore the crabapple red jacket Jiangshu favored, my heart brimming with anticipation as I waited to see him. My younger sister beside me, curious, asked, "Sister, what are you grinning about?" I pressed my lips together. "You wouldn't understand." Arriving at the imperial rear garden, peonies and peonies bloomed in full splendor. The young ladies from various families gathered to chat. My sister tugged fearfully at my sleeve. "Sister." I grasped her hand. "What are you afraid of?" "They won't eat you." Scanning the crowd, I couldn't spot Jiangshu anywhere, and I felt a pang of disappointment. Today's hairpin banquet was more relaxed, differing from the usual formal etiquette. Rumor had it the empress had arranged this banquet for Crown Prince Jiangshu to select a consort. A sudden snort of derision broke my reverie. What foolish girl is this? Trying to copy others' beauty? I looked in the direction of the voice. Beside the speaker stood a young lady dressed in a peony red robe. She turned to look at me. The smile on my lips froze instantly. It was the future crown princess, Lin Jinyan. In my previous life, neither of us had attended this banquet. This time, not only did she attend, but she also wore the same color Jiangshu favored as I did. My hands clenched unconsciously. Lin Jinyan smiled and nodded at me. Yet my mind was consumed by the thought, had she reincarnated too? More and more people noticed that Lin Jinyan and I wore robes of the same color. A few sarcastic remarks pierced my ears. "The Lin family's young miss certainly wears it well, graceful and dignified. Unlike that Rong family girl. Who's trying to be so different?" Who could disagree? That Rong girl is such a fool. Dressed like some courtesan begging for attention. The peony red gown never suited me, and now I resembled nothing more than a clown for others' amusement. It was utterly humiliating. My younger sister deliberately spilled a cup of tea onto my skirt. "Sister, this dress is wet. Let's change into something else." Pale-faced, I followed the young palace maid to the side hall to change into attire more befitting me. The bronze mirror reflected my newly arranged appearance. Jiangshu once said he loved my eyes, slightly upturned at the corners. Exceptionally clear and spirited. After changing, I hurried back to the rear courtyard. A burst of cheers and laughter greeted me. Several young masters from prominent families had arrived. From afar, I caught sight of a familiar figure. My heart leapt with joy, and I hurried forward, only to hear Lin Jinyan's bashful voice, "Your Highness, this is improper." My steps halted abruptly. Before me, Jiangshu was plucking a vibrant peony to pin in Lin Jinyan's hair. A wave of bitterness washed over me. They gazed at each other, oblivious to everyone else. A perfect match. A handsome man and a beautiful woman. "This peony suits you well, Miss Lin." Jiangshu's lips curved into a small smile. In my past life, when he played with me, he smiled like this, indulgent yet resigned. I clenched my handkerchief and instinctively turned to flee. Lin Jinyan called out to me, as if on purpose. Jiangshu turned to me, his gaze now clear and his voice smooth and resonant. Miss Rong, your handkerchief has fallen. I scrambled to pick it up and hurried out of the rear garden. Once I calmed down and examined the brocade handkerchief in my hand, panic struck again. I had no idea whose handkerchief this was. Thinking this, I tossed it into the lake. Just as I was about to breathe a sigh of relief, a teasing voice came from behind. Why did you toss my handkerchief into the lake? Young lady? I turned, our gazes meeting midair. He froze, his fingers curling involuntarily, a faint blush seeming to rise on his bronze-toned face. I wasn't about to explain anything to him, so I hurried away. When I returned to the banquet, Jiangshu was nowhere to be found, nor was Lin Jinran. In my previous life, when I entered the palace, Lin Jinran had just given birth to the crown prince. Weak from childbirth, she could only see him occasionally. By then, I was deeply favored by Jiangshu, spoiled and accustomed to my privileges. I never gave her a second thought. Now, sister. Hearing my sister's voice snapped me back to reality. I'm tired. Let's leave first. But I still wanted to wait for Jiangshu. My sister's face grew pale, so I took her hand and led her away. After that, I attended every banquet, yet never once encountered Jiangshu. Perhaps he was too busy with state affairs to attend. I quietly reassured myself and urged father to support Jiangshu. That autumn, Jiangshu ascended the throne. The following spring, I waited joyfully for the imperial selection list. Yet I heard that no selection would be held this year. Days later, the emperor issued an edict. Lady Lin possesses gentle virtue and prudent nature. She is hereby proclaimed empress, to occupy the central palace. The emperor even personally shot a pair of wild geese to send to the Lin household. Just as in my previous life, Lin Jinyan became empress. Even though I knew Jiangshu hadn't been reborn like me, unable to fulfill the promise of our past life. Seeing the sachets I'd embroidered for him in the palm of my hand, tears still flowed uncontrollably. In a fit of pique, I cut the sachets to shreds. The fragrant powder scattered onto the ground, and suddenly, I regretted it. In my previous life, I didn't enter the palace until the following year. Perhaps I could wait a little longer. I gathered the scraps, wiped away my tears, and began sewing them back together. A drop of blood pricked from my fingertip. Father knocked and entered. I hastily lowered my head. Hunger, you may begin courting suitors now. My voice caught as I refused. Wait a little longer. Perhaps next year I'll enter the palace as an imperial consort. Father's eyes widened, thinking I'd lost my mind. What good is entering the palace? I whispered back, but I adore the emperor. Jiangshu treats me so well in every way. He remained silent, deep in thought for a long while, before speaking slowly. Hunger, your father is selfish. I don't want you to enter the palace. I only wish you'd stay by my side. Even if you marry, you could still come back often to visit. I looked into his eyes. My heart stirred violently. Mother passed away early. Father raised me and my younger sister alone. Even our maternal family urged him to remarry. But he feared we'd suffer hardship and never did. Father. He waved his hand. As long as you're happy, Father will help you. The following year, Jiangshu's eldest son was born and proclaimed crown prince after his 100th day. When I heard the news, I froze for a long time. Even now, his harem contained only Lin Jinran. In my previous life, after I entered the palace, Jiangshu showered almost all his favor upon me alone. Many consorts complained to the empress that I monopolized the emperor's affection. Jiangshu ignored their counsel, continuing to visit my palace as always to play and frolic with me, favoring only me. Father mentioned that court ministers advised him to expand the harem. Yet a month passed. Jiangshu departed for Tongzhou to manage flood control. Several more months passed. Jiangshu foresaw the plague in Danzhou, implementing early countermeasures within the city that averted a great disaster. Everyone praised him, saying his achievements rivaled divine intervention, his benevolence benefiting all living beings. That year, preoccupied with state affairs, he still did not hold the imperial selection. The third year, when the peonies bloomed, Father told me with overjoyed surprise, "Hunger, the selection list has arrived, our Rong family is on it." I rushed over impatiently. "Father, let me see." I snatched it open, only to find my younger sister Rongjin's name. The midday sun suddenly felt blindingly hot. The list slipped from my grasp, my heart skipping a beat. How could it be my sister's name? Tears streamed down my face uncontrollably. Seeing my reaction, Father first flashed a brief look of satisfaction, then comforted me, "It's better she doesn't enter the palace. I've already found a suitable match for Hunger." "Father, let me take my sister's place in the selection." Father frowned, "Nonsense. The palace is a den of intrigue. If you enter, you might lose your life." For the first time in his life, he rebuked me. "I will do everything in my power to ensure your sister fails the selection." But soon, more devastating news arrived. Jiangshu issued an edict. This would be the final imperial selection. The harem would not be replenished thereafter. My face drained of color instantly. Signs pointed to him being reborn too. From calling me Miss Rong at the flower-pinning banquet, to later claiming achievements that weren't his in our past life. Only this time, he chose to avoid me, forgetting his promise. He made me wait 3 whole years. In the end, it was my sister's name. The restorative medicine delivered by the young maid slipped from my grasp and shattered. I swallowed my tears, clutching Father's hand. "Father, I will marry." Of all those selected for the palace, only my younger sister remained. I couldn't tell if Jiangshu had done it deliberately. Father sighed helplessly. "As long as your sister is well, it matters little. With only 2 consorts in the palace, there's less scheming. Your sister is clever too. There's no need to worry excessively." After a pause, he continued, "The one betrothed to you will also attend the banquet in a few days. Go and take a discreet look. If she doesn't suit you, we'll call off the engagement." I snapped off a twig and whispered, "What's his name?" "Xia Tsongnan. The wedding is set for next month." Attending the banquet once more, perhaps knowing Jiangshu had also been reborn, I couldn't help but find his beaming smile from the high seat disingenuous. We stepped out of the palace halls again. Father said that man is a young general, broad-shouldered and sturdy, with a leopard-like head and piercing eyes. Not particularly handsome. I paced anxiously back and forth. A hushed yet coarse voice came from behind me, "Miss Rongheng." I lifted my gaze. It was none other than the man whose handkerchief I'd tossed into the lake earlier. "You." He suddenly smiled, warmth flickering at his brow. "I am your betrothed. Xia Tsongnan." I murmured his name softly, then turned and walked away. Father, being a scholar, always held a bias against military officers. Yet Xia Tsongnan was undeniably handsome. Returning to the banquet, I couldn't find my sister and felt a pang of worry. The morning passed in a haze. I couldn't bring myself to listen to their laughter and chatter. Suddenly, a young palace maid approached me, curtsying, "Consort Roan wishes to see you." I followed the attendant out of the banquet hall toward another palace. This path felt eerily familiar. It was the Jiaofeng Hall from my past life. When I recognized Lin Jinyan seated there, my hands clenched unconsciously. The gilded peony hairpin adorning her head was the token of love Jiangshu had personally given me in my previous life. The other half lay beneath his pillow in the Taichin hall. I pressed my lips together. Lin Jinyan motioned for me to approach. A flicker of mockery passed through her eyes. Your childhood name is Ah Heng? I froze. Only Jiang Shu had ever called me that, not even my father had ever used it. I denied it vehemently. That is not my childhood name. Is that so? Yet yesterday, when His Majesty lodged in my palace, he called out the name Ah Heng. My pupils contracted sharply as I slowly knelt to the ground. Perhaps Her Majesty misheard. She was now the powerful empress. If she were secretly oppressing her younger sister, I dared not think it. I bowed my head and added, "This servant will be married next month." She toyed with the jade bracelet in her hand. Then it slipped from her palm. A crisp shattering sound echoed through the silent palace. This was an imperial gift. How could the miss of the Rong family break it? Kneel at the palace gate for 2 hours. Gritting my teeth, I walked to the entrance and knelt. The midday sun was merciless. My mind drifted to my past life. After Lin Jinyan's death, Jiang Shu spent the entire day neglecting his official documents. Clutching a lock of her black hair, he held me close as he fell asleep, only to murmur in his sleep, "Jinyan, I have wronged you. It is all my fault. Jinyan, Jinyan, I regret it." When I awoke, tears still lingered at the corners of my eyes. But I was careless, never taking it to heart. I even secretly rejoiced that Lin Jinyan had passed away, for the next empress would be me. Until my own death, I remained only a noble consort, and the empress's throne remained vacant. It turned out, his deepest love had always been for the empress. What crabapple red? That was never Jiang Shu's favorite color, it was Lin Jinran's. His affection for me in my past life was an illusion, and this life's sister was merely a decoy. He knew I was simple-minded and despised his own sister, deliberately inscribing her name to fuel my jealousy. My body had always been robust, never injured before entering the palace. After rebirth, every physician I consulted confirmed I had no hidden ailments, and he himself had fathered children. After Lin Jinyan's death, no more imperial princes or princesses were born in the harem. So was he administering contraceptive drugs to me all along, paving the way for Lin Jinyan's child? All medicine carries some toxicity. No wonder my past self passed away in my 30s. After my death, he hypocritically insisted on being buried alongside me. I lifted my gaze to the palace, its red walls and green tiles so familiar, and smiled, tears streaming uncontrollably down my face. Jiang Shu never loved me. He orchestrated everything for Lin Jinyan, yet denied me the chance to bear his child. I knelt for what felt like an eternity, my legs numb and devoid of feeling, my knees throbbing with excruciating pain. A flash of bright yellow fabric brushed past my side. I strained to lift my head, it was Jiang Shu. But he never once looked at me. Striding straight into the hall, their laughter drifted out. "Your Majesty, the young lady of the Rong family shattered the bracelet you gifted her." This servant punished her by making her kneel for the duration of an incense stick. She was being coquettish. Jiang Shu stroked her temple with indulgent affection. "She's always been spoiled. An occasional punishment won't hurt." Lin Jinyan clasped Jiang Shu's hand tightly. "But this Miss Rong seems to have an engagement already. The wedding is next month." The smile on Jiang Shu's face froze slightly. "Is that so? The time is up. Miss Rong may leave now." I strained to straighten my knees. But as I rose, a stinging numbness shot through my feet, sending me crashing back to my knees. My palms slammed against the ground, small cuts forming where the pebbles tore at my skin. Biting my lip, I struggled to stand several times before finally managing it. A dense, throbbing pain radiated from my knees, nearly forcing me back down. In the end, it was the palace maid beside my sister who helped me up. From now on, I would never trouble him again. I limped toward the palace gates. The twilight stretched my shadow long. Yet I hadn't noticed when another shadow had fallen behind me. I wiped away my tears. A figure stood before me. It was Nan. His expression was stern, yet a flicker of concern flickered in his eyes. He strode swiftly to my side and swept me up in his arms. I murmured his name, my voice thick with hurt, Nan. He said nothing, simply carried me to share a carriage with him. Behind us, the emperor, usually cool and haughty, clenched his fists silently. Once inside the carriage, I remained silent. Nan produced a bottle of bruise ointment from somewhere and made to apply it. I suddenly grabbed his hand, startling him. His palm was large and broad, fingers calloused from rough work. Proper boundaries between men and women. He chuckled softly. I'm used to roughing it in the barracks. My haste made me forget. My apologies. I released his hand, but a sharp pain shot through my knee, draining my face of color. Perhaps seeing my distress, Nan apologized again. Forgive me. My manners fail me. Then he hooked my leg over his, applied the ointment to his palm, and began massaging it through my undergarment. My entire body froze. His palm was intensely warm, its heat steadily radiating into me. Nan massaged me with focused care. I averted my gaze. If left untreated, it could become chronic, causing dull aches whenever the weather turned damp and rainy. Hearing his words, I held my tongue. The stabbing pain in my knee gradually eased. I glanced at him in surprise, managing only to stammer out, "You're really good." He lowered his eyes and continued massaging. His touch, however, grew much gentler. "Are you satisfied with me?" I froze, not immediately understanding, thinking he was asking about his technique. I nodded frantically. Satisfied. Very satisfied. He smiled, his eyes seeming to hold stars. In my family, my parents are in good health, and I have a younger brother. If you marry into our household, you won't need to manage the affairs of the manor. If you wish to visit home, I'll accompany you. So that's what he meant. I pressed my lips together, not intending to refuse this marriage. All right. His hands suddenly tightened, and I let out a soft whimper. Nan, be careful. He gave a silly smile in response. Upon arriving at the Rome residence, Nan lifted me out of the carriage again. I clung tightly to his neck, my nose brushing against his cheek by accident. His Adam's apple suddenly bobbed twice. Miss Rongheng. I turned my head and saw Jiangshu standing not far behind us. He stood perfectly straight, his composed face betraying no emotion, yet his hand nervously rubbed a jade pendant back and forth. This was his habitual gesture when flustered. But he seemed unaware that I, too, had been reborn. I averted my gaze and entered the Rome residence. Father, upon hearing the physician describe the bruised marks on my knee, was so enraged he drafted a memorial to impeach the empress. This is utterly outrageous. I'm sorry. Hunger. Your father has caused you suffering. Father covered his face with his sleeve, secretly wiping away tears. Father, it's not your fault. It's all my own foolishness. I couldn't see through people's hearts. Nan bowed respectfully beside us. Minister Rong, rest assured. Before returning, I applied medicine to Miss Rongheng. Father glanced at him. You may return home now. Nan looked at me, his ears flushing crimson as he handed me the bruise ointment. Once a day. You'll be fine soon. I met his gaze and thanked him. Thank you for earlier. Otherwise, returning alone might have left me with lasting damage. It's nothing. This junior takes his leave. His smile seemed cheap as his tall figure vanished into the night. Father sighed and asked cautiously, "What do you think of him?" "Very well, Father. I'm willing to marry him." Father straightened his back. He's 21 now, just the right age. His family is simple too. No need for scheming or intrigue. I gave a dull hum. What about your sister? Your sister has always been self-reliant. She sent word long ago that all is well. No need to worry. In my past life, I survived the imperial harem into my 30s solely because of Jiangshu's favor. Even when framed, he would unconditionally take my side, never punishing me. If I'd truly been forced to fight, who knows how gruesomely I might have died. Hunger. Rest well. Early the next morning, Xia Songnan's younger brother, Xia Songyu, arrived carrying a package. He bore a slight resemblance to Xia Songnan, but his smile was sweet and gentle. Sister Rongheng, my brother asked me to slip this to you secretly. I opened it to find a love lock. My brother heard about it at the barracks too. If you don't like it, sister, I'll return it. I ruffled Xia Songyu's hair. Then go tell him it's unnecessary, I love it. His eyes widened. Really? I nodded and picked up a pastry, pressing it into his hand. It's delicious. Just then, a servant from Father's quarters rushed over in a panic. Miss, His Majesty has arrived. Father insists you remain indoors. I know. I won't go out. Right now. I didn't want to see Jiangshu's face. I pulled Xia Songyu along as we continued eating pastries. He chattered like a little chatterbox, recounting all sorts of embarrassing stories about his brother. I burst out laughing. Sister Rongheng, once you become my sister-in-law, I can keep telling you these stories. Right? Of course. Sister Rongheng is going to be my sister-in-law. Before he could finish, a figure as straight as a pine tree burst into view. Jiangshu had entered. The pastry in my hand fell to the floor. In a split second, I frantically picked it up. Pulling Xia Songyu forward to curtsy, this humble maiden humbly greets your majesty. He ordered Xia Songyu to be taken away. Only he and I remained in the chamber. Jiangshu gazed at me intently. Yesterday was the empress's fault. I have punished her. That no longer matters. Your Majesty. He paused, then opened his palm to reveal a pair of delicate earrings. A gift. I accepted them with feigned delight. He seemed to relax. He had deliberately tested me. Indeed, he remembered my deepest aversion to earrings. After entering the palace in my previous life, my earlobe was scratched and bled by the cat kept by Consort De. I never wore earrings again. Since that is the case, I shall take my leave. I curtsied and respectfully saw him off. I immediately had my maid pawn the earrings, using the money to buy wedding candies and melon seeds to share. As the wedding date approached, I never left the palace again, focusing instead on embroidering the undergarments I planned to give Xia Songnan. Xia Songyu had secretly told me his measurements. I hadn't expected him to be so narrow-waisted, broad-shouldered, with long legs and arms. On the wedding day, an 8-man palanquin arrived amid gongs and drums. I entered the Xia residence in a daze. My heart pounded wildly. As I stepped down, Xia Songnan grasped my hand and whispered in my ear, "Don't be nervous." Yet the sweat on his palm was even heavier than mine. A faint smile touched my lips as I murmured, "MHM. Oh. The eldest son is getting married." The guests erupted in a clamor. I relaxed too, stepping into the wedding hall with a fan in hand. The guests on the right side were unusually quiet. Curiosity made me steal a glance. It was Jiangshu. Why was he here? Jiangshu sipped his tea, his gaze suddenly meeting mine in midair. I averted my gaze and looked at Xia Songnan beside me. He looked tense, his smile stiff at the corners. He bowed slowly to me, stepped forward, and gently lifted the fan, revealing my face. Today I wore my favorite plum blossom hairpin and pearl makeup. The breath above my head paused for a moment, then quickened again. I looked up at him with a smile. Xiat Songnan pressed his lips together, his eyes glistening with moisture. Father gazed at us with evident satisfaction. The master of ceremonies called out, "First bow to heaven and earth." Out of my sight. Jiang Shu abruptly stood up, his gaze fixed intently on the plum blossom hairpin adorning my forehead. He finally realized I had also been reborn. I habitually painted a 6-petal plum blossom hairpin, adorned with a blue pistil. I chided myself for forgetting how, in my past life, I had begged Jiang Shu to paint that plum blossom hairpin for me just once. He had teased me. "Who has a blue pistil? You're one of a kind." During the wedding ceremony, Jiang Shu had already crushed the teacup in his hand. Blood mixed with tea dripped from his fingertips. The eunuch beside him immediately sensed something was wrong. His shrill voice cut through the festive laughter. "Your Majesty, you're bleeding." The scene suddenly fell silent. Everyone fell silent, except for Xiat Songnan, who grinned as he took my hand. "Now that the ceremony is complete, my lady, I shall escort you to the bridal chamber." The moment Xiat Songnan finished speaking, a mocking curve appeared at the corner of Jiang Shu's mouth. Emotions churned in his deep eyes as he spoke slowly, enunciating each word. "Rongheng, you deceived me so bitterly." I pretended not to hear and entered the bridal chamber. Xiat Songnan sat across from me, his words stumbling. "I'll step out to entertain the guests and return shortly. Several types of pastries are prepared in the room. A maid will bring your favorite foods later." He fidgeted nervously with his sleeve. I nodded and stole a kiss on his cheek. Xiat Songnan flushed completely and hurried out. "See you soon." The commotion outside began again. A young maid entered to relay the situation. The general had been plied with wine and was now in high spirits. I picked up a pastry and ate it. "Madam, when do you think that official will leave?" She meant Jiang Shu, right? I finished the pastry nonchalantly. "Let him be." Outside, night had fallen, and the noise had quieted considerably. Xiat Songnan approached with steady steps. Seeing I'd eaten quite a bit, he visibly relaxed. "Wife, the wedding wine." After I drank it, a flush spread across his face, making my mouth go dry. "I'll bathe first." The thought of what followed made me inexplicably nervous. I swallowed hard. Half an hour later, Xiat Songnan returned to the inner chamber wearing only a single robe. I too had removed my jeweled hairpins. After washing up, I sat on the bedside, listening to the thump-thump-thump of my own heartbeat. "You." He had already grasped my hand, leaning down to kiss me. The first touch was light and fleeting, then slowly deepened, utterly devoid of technique. "Candle." Perhaps my tone carried a hint of petulance, for Xiat Songnan paused, rose to extinguish the candles, leaving only one by the bedside. My fingers dug into the muscles of his arm. I heard him pant softly in my ear, "My love, be gentle with me." A night of reckless passion. I forgot he was in the prime of his youth, and I wasn't quite used to it. He wrapped his arms around my waist, his ears flushing crimson. I turned to meet his gaze and whispered, "Why were you crying last night?" His hand paused on my waist as he averted his eyes. "Nothing. We should get up soon for the tea ceremony." He practically fled the bed. This was the first time I'd seen Xiat Songnan like this. It was quite strange. I accompanied him to the tea ceremony. My mother-in-law and father-in-law both took a liking to me. Father-in-law left to attend to official business, while mother-in-law pulled me aside for a private chat. "If Xiat Songnan has any faults, just speak up. He has thick skin, he won't mind." I nodded. Xiat Songnan approached. "Mother, there's nothing to say. I'll be more careful from now on." I smiled at him. The next moment, a servant entered to report, "Lady, someone from the palace has arrived." My mind instinctively turned to Jiang Shu as I followed my mother-in-law to the flower hall. Thankfully, It wasn't one of Jiangshu's eunuchs, but a palace maid. The empress said she wishes to speak with the general's young mistress at the hour of the monkey today. Young mistress, your sister, consort Rong, will also be present. I forced a smile in response. Lin Jinyan. What does she want? Following Xiao Songnan back to the courtyard, I was lost in thought the entire way. He ruffled my hair. Don't worry. I'll wait for you at the palace gates. It wasn't that I feared she'd harm me, I just found it strange. When I entered the palace, Lin Jinyan hadn't come. Neither had my sister. Instead, Jiangshu arrived. His palm was wrapped in gauze. I curtsied in greeting. Jiangshu smiled with a hint of sarcasm. In the past, you never bowed when you saw me. I lifted my head, fixing my gaze on him. His eyes held an emotion I couldn't decipher. What business brings the emperor to summon this humble servant? Since you two have been reborn, why did you not come to find me? My voice was flat, because in this life, I wish to live differently. No sooner had the words left my lips than a sharp clatter echoed. He curled his lips in a faint smile. The prayer beads in his hand fell to the floor, scattering into a scattered mess before settling into stillness. Ah, Hung. I could easily fabricate a charge and imprison your husband. If you return to me, I will forgive all past transgressions. I smiled. You won't. Because I know him too well, he'd never sacrifice an entire nation for a fleeting romance. In his past life, Xiao Songnan was a renowned general who secured the borders and pacified distant lands. Even Jiangshu praised his achievements while reviewing memorials. Your Majesty, let's pretend we're starting anew. As if we never knew each other. I'm married now. Let's each find our own peace. A flicker of panic crossed his face. You're angry that I broke my promise. That I couldn't grant you the empty title of empress. At that moment, I laughed bitterly. How had I never noticed his arrogance before? Your Majesty, forget it. I could never forgive him for deliberately bringing my sister into the harem yet giving her nothing. I turned and walked toward the palace gates. Suddenly, a voice called out to me, Sister. I turned back, surprised and delighted. It was my sister. She hadn't lost weight and seemed to be living quite comfortably. I touched her cheek. My voice rough. Are you doing well? I always feared the empress might secretly mistreat her because of me. She smiled happily. I'm doing quite well here. The emperor doesn't come, and I don't have to pay respects to the empress. I even have a big yellow dog. Life is comfortable. I nodded firmly. In that case, I'll leave the palace now. Only after exiting the palace gates did I notice a talisman tucked inside my sleeve. My sister must have slipped it to me secretly. Why was I smiling so joyfully? The moment I saw Xiao Songnan, my heart settled back into place. I rushed forward and embraced him, saying, I saw my sister. Xiao Songnan held me tightly, his hearty laughter filling the air. I couldn't tell what he was laughing about. Early the next morning, an imperial edict arrived at the Xie residence. The Khitan were gathering at the border, and Xiao Songnan was ordered to defend the frontier. I grasped his hand and whispered, How long will you be gone? He curved his lips and rubbed my cheek. Not long. But in my past life, that battle raged for years before ending, with devastating casualties. Bitterness welled in my heart. Take me with you, please? He still smiled, though it held a hint of resignation. If you feel lonely without me, go home and stay with your father-in-law. Okay? I don't want to. I'm afraid he'll be badly hurt. Xiao Songnan, take me with you. I promise I won't get in your way. I was on the verge of tears. He pulled me close, resting his head on my shoulder. It's fine. Victory and defeat are part of warfare. I'm the skilled. I'll definitely return alive from the battlefield. Wait for my good news. His rough fingertips brushed my cheek. I nodded, but a plan formed in my heart. Okay. I turned and packed his belongings. That night, I clung to him, perhaps to soothe my emotions. He cooperated wholeheartedly. After he delivered me back to the Rome family estate, he headed for the frontier. I secretly followed his troops. But before I could take a few steps, a sharp pain struck the back of my neck, and I blacked out. When I woke, I lay in a carriage, facing Jiangshu. Nervously, I shifted back a step. He didn't look at me. Speaking in a flat tone, awake? I remained silent. He tossed me a map of the frontier, marked with military formations. Shocked, I asked, "You intend to lead the campaign personally?" "Yes." "Then why am I here?" He lifted a cup of tea, stirring the leaves gently. The rising steam obscured the emotion in his eyes. "Because you're foolish." He'd known all along I'd follow the expedition. I lowered my gaze. "Jiangshu, you can hate me, but don't drag Xiaonan into this because of us." He suddenly smiled. "How do you know I won't kill you?" I froze. "Ah, Hung. What's so great about him?" I clenched the map, my mind filled with Xiaonan's silly grin, utterly sincere. He never lied to me. Jiangshu's body trembled. When he turned to look at me, his eyes had regained their seriousness. But he couldn't give me status or power. I don't want any of that. I only want him. I unfolded the map, carefully recalling the details of this battle from my past life. I didn't want Xiaonan to get hurt. Lost in thought, a jade pendant suddenly appeared before my eyes. It was my favorite jade pendant from my past life, so beloved I'd sneak out of bed at midnight to steal it from Jiangshu's dragon robe. I frowned in confusion. "What are you doing?" He offered it with a hint of flattery. "For you. Your favorite jade pendant." "I don't need it." "Ah, Hung. You know Jin Yan won't live long. Don't be upset. I'll be with you from now on." I blinked. When Lin Jin Yan passed away in my previous life, the crown prince was about 4 years old. If I truly couldn't live that long, and Jiangshu had only the crown prince as his heir in this life, wouldn't that mean my sister could take the crown prince to raise? I suppressed the flutter of excitement in my heart. "I don't need you to stay with me either." He stared straight at my face, trying to find any trace of unusual emotion. "Didn't you love me the most?" "Jiangshu, our bond ended long ago. Stop clinging to me." A voice called from outside the carriage. "Your Majesty, we've joined forces with General Xia's troops." My heart leapt with joy. I tossed out, "I only love Xiaonan," before leaping from the carriage and sprinting straight towards Xiaonan. "Xiaonan!" Seeing me run toward him, Xiaonan gently scolded. "You're being ridiculous." I didn't care, clinging tightly to his arm. Not far away, Jiangshu stood silently, watching for who knows how long. Drawing on memories from his past life, Jiangshu had meticulously arranged the city's defenses and formulated battle plans. By day, I led the womenfolk into the mountains to gather herbs. By night, I squeezed into Xiaonan's quarters. Everyone in the city knew I was Xiaonan's wife. Each time, he feigned reluctance before pulling me tightly into his embrace. "Xiaonan, I want to have a child. Because I love you. I want a child." His expression softened. His Adam's apple bobbed. "All right. But we must wait until this battle ends." I grinned and nuzzled his neck, armed with memories from my past life. This battle concluded swiftly. 3 months later, the Khitan chose to sue for peace. Xiaonan accompanied Jiangshu to the negotiations. Standing atop the city walls, my heart was in my throat. Below, the two sides faced each other. Alas, I couldn't hear what was said. Suddenly, the soldiers erupted in cheers. I hurried to the city gate. Nan and Jiangshu walked toward me. The next instant, arrows flew through the air. Kill! I watched the arrows strike Nan. Nan! My body went ice cold. The world around me became a buzzing hum. My mind blank. Only when Jiangshu was struck by an arrow. A trickle of blood spilling from the corner of his mouth. Did I snap back to reality? I rushed to Nan and clutched him tightly. Outside the city walls, the slaughter continued. It turned out Jiangshu had secretly stationed men in ambush. Certain the Khitan forces would betray us. Nan clutched the arrow lodged in his shoulder, gritting his teeth as he reassured me, "It's not vital. I'll be fine." Tears fell unconsciously. "Your Majesty." My eyes were fixed on Nan, having completely forgotten Jiangshu, who had also been struck. I turned to see Jiangshu coughing up blood nearby. He sensed the utter absence of affection in my gaze. His grip tightened on the sword hilt as the light in his eyes slowly faded. His other hand reached out to grasp mine, but I sidestepped it without a trace of hesitation. "Quick! Summon the imperial physician. Nan. I won't allow you to die. If you die, I'll remarry with this child growing inside me." The moment the words left my mouth, an identical phrase echoed in my ears. One voice brimmed with joy, the other with despair. "You're pregnant?" Nan embraced me in joy, leading me toward the city center. Jiangshu, however, stood pale-faced, murmuring in disbelief. "Yes, I have our child." Nan. Jiangshu stared at me in despair, his hands suspended in midair, trembling slightly. "Ah hung. You're lying to me, aren't you?" "But I never lie." Jiangshu suddenly spat out a mouthful of blood, bit his lip hard, and staggered half a step. "How?" Before he could finish, he collapsed with a thud. The Khitan finally sought peace. Jiangshu remained unconscious, his dreams filled with agonized mutterings. The army still lingered at the frontier. Nan tended to the wounded soldiers. Until one day, Jiangshu suddenly awoke. Barefoot, he rushed into the crowd, his face etched with regret as he begged me, "Ah hung. I regret it. Forgive me, please." I shook my head, telling him firmly, "I won't forgive you. And I can't." Jiangshu led his army away in triumph. The journey was long, so Nan chose to wait until my pregnancy was stable before returning home. The physician said my robust constitution meant there was no need for concern. Yet he remained anxious, tending to my every need with meticulous care. Nan kissed my forehead and whispered softly, "My wife. I fell for you the moment you tossed my handkerchief aside." He gazed at me, his face full of expectation. "Really?" Truthfully, I knew, but I deliberately remained silent. When Nan and I finally returned to the Xie residence, I heard that after Jiangshu returned, he collapsed again, coughing up blood while reading memorials late into the night. His health was now extremely fragile. I heard Lin Jinyan tended to him day and night, only to be pushed away by him. "I should never have made you empress. He betrayed my devotion, yet I did not wish for his death." The nation's affairs still depended on his decisions. After Nan entered the palace, he brought back many children's toys. They were gifts from His Majesty. I shook the rattle in my hand. Nan suddenly winked at me. "I think His Majesty really likes our child. Jiangshu would like it." After a pause, he continued, "But I'll pretend I don't know." I beckoned to Nan. He immediately approached and kissed me. "Ah hung. I love you. From now on, having him is enough." Jiangshu never selected any more imperial consorts. He remained diligent in governance and compassionate toward his people, handling memorials alone until late into the night. Whenever he glanced back at the empty palace chambers, it felt as though he could still see Rongheng in every corner. accompanying him and complaining about which concubine had offended her that day. His heart felt as though gripped by a giant hand, a dull ache spreading through him. Jiang Shu instinctively reached for Rong Hang's hand. In the blink of an eye, it dissolved into thin air. Numbly, he flexed his fingers, only to see Rong Hang's willow brows furrow again. You, Jiang Shu, you've hidden the sachets I embroidered for you again. I won't stand for it, I must find them today. Hearing this, Jiang Shu tossed aside the memorials and began searching the palace. The eunuch who entered saw the emperor's hysteria flare up again. Accustomed to it, he stood to one side, yawning. Once I find it, Ah Hung will forgive me. Forgive my. Jiang Shu gazed at the candle, his eyes brimming with affection. His voice low and lingering, Ah Hung. Forgive me. Will you? Will you? Rong Hung blinked her lively eyes and said, All right. But first you must finish these memorials. Jiang Shu murmured as if in a trance, Ah Hung forgave me. Forgave me! The sentence startled the eunuch awake. Though he showed little reaction, the guard heard this phrase nearly every night. Anyway, by daybreak, the emperor would return to normal. The end.